Hello, and welcome to the Beginning Storyteller, a course from CIImmersion.com. My name is Andrew Snyder, and I have an audacious goal. I want to help millions and millions of people learn to speak a new language. I'll tell you that when I learned Spanish, it changed my life forever, and I want to share this experience with other people. One of the ways to meet this goal is by helping instructors excel, but not just any instructor. Instructors that are already super talented, instructors that already have passion for teaching language, and equipping these instructors with the tools they need to become more effective and to reach their full potential as language teachers. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey that is CI storytelling, telling stories with comprehensible input with the intent of teaching learners to speak a new language. It's such an exciting idea, but it's pretty difficult to go this road alone. And so I'm so grateful that you decided to take this course with me and that we together can move you forward to reach your full potential as a language instructor. Let's get started. I want to express my gratitude to you for taking the Beginning Storyteller, this course from CI Immersion. I wrote this course because I have a big goal. And this big goal is to help millions and millions of people to learn to speak a new language. I think that if we can help people to learn a new language, we can change the world, and for the better. We can understand each other better. And by understanding each other, we can learn to work together, to solve problems, to live in community with each other. I think it's very, very important that we do this. And one critical way is by helping high-impact instructors teach their learners to speak a new language. I want to help these high-impact instructors reach their full potential because they're already excellent. And with the right systems in place and with the right tools in their tool belt, they'll be able to accomplish this super important goal. We'll go on a journey through several lessons together, and in lesson 1, we'll take our first steps. We're going to learn to write a syllabus in line with CI storytelling, that is, comprehensible input storytelling. We're going to limit task creep by defining a scope and a sequence for our courses. We will select stories that will fit your new scope and sequence. We'll develop systems for lesson planning, grading, taking attendance, and administrative tasks. In lesson 2, we'll move on to the pre-story phase. And that includes things like starting the term, what to do at the beginning, how to generate content from the learners so that you don't have to, an intro into orbiting or circling, as many people call it in the CI community, an intro into total physical response, or TPR, a very powerful tool to help learners acquire new vocabulary and to retain it for long periods of time. In lesson 3, we'll actually tell the story. And so in this one, we're going to need a deep dive on orbiting or circling. It's one of the most important tools in your tool belt for telling a story, and so we'll really, really dive deep and we'll get a good understanding of that. We'll tell the story, and you'll learn to use learner-generated artwork as a way to keep track of the story and help learners review the story each class period. You will learn to summarize the story as a class in a way that gets more comprehensible reps on the language for learners. We'll incorporate student actors so that we can use them in class to get reps on different forms, but also to demonstrate the language to the rest of the class. In lesson 4, we'll learn to write versions of our story and then different ways that learners can read through the story. So oftentimes we'll have a lesser quality version that we've created together now with some time to edit. So you have time to write an improved versions, plural, of the story. We can develop systems for writing the story so that it becomes less of a chore for us. you'll discover various ways for learners to read the story together. In Lesson 5, we're going to guide learners from input to output, and this means making activities. So we'll have an intro to various kinds of activities that you might be able to use, and we'll learn how to extract tasks from the story itself so that they are relevant to students and that they make sense and that they target the same vocabulary and forms that you covered in the story. We'll move learners from input to output. Now, output is not necessarily something that a lot of people talk about. When we talk about CI, people say, oh, output is not the cause of acquisition. And they're right, it's not the cause of acquisition. But output does play some role in acquisition. And honestly, I don't know we fully understand what role that is. And so we will talk about output and we will try to get learners to output. But understanding that output is not causing the acquisition. That output is serving some other function. It's obvious that it serves some function, but it's limited in what it can do. And it's not the cause of acquisition. Input is the cause of acquisition, and especially comprehensible input. But one thing that we know that it does for sure is that norming output for the class lets people lower their effective filter. If they feel comfortable outputting, that means their effective filter is lowered. And so it's a way to gauge that as well. And in Lesson 6, we'll look at assessment. This is one of the biggest questions that I've gotten over the years of how to assess language and language learners and their acquisition of the language in a storytelling setting. It's very difficult to do that, but there are some ways to get that done. We'll look at traditional grammar tests and CI storytelling. We'll look at what makes a good assessment in the first place. We'll see various kinds of assessments that pair well with storytelling and that I actually use in my classroom. At the end of each lesson, there will be some homework, but I have good news for you. That homework is optional. I do believe that if you were to complete the homework at the end of each lesson, you would take more away from that lesson. And that's why they're there. All right, let's get going. Let's take our first steps together.